ahead, an encore presentation of the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze. Hope you enjoy this second helping.
Hey, mambo, mambo Italiano, hey, hey, mambo, mambo Italiano, go, go, go. You mixed up a Siciliano, all you Calabrese do the mambo like a crazy with a hey, mambo. Don't wanna tarantella, hey, hey, mambo. No more mozzarella, hey, mambo. Mambo Italiano, try an enchilada with the fish bacalao.
Thanks for joining the party on the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze. What a delicious show we have for you. Big Italian focus. Italian food importer and cookbook author Rolando Beramendi teaches us how to cook real Italian, including his recipes for extra virgin olive oil cake and a no-crust pizza. We have Connecticut lawyer Carlo Forzani. He's inherited his family's ancestral home in a region of Italy where I've led a food and wine tour, and I think is one of my favorite places in Italy to be, in Piemonte. It's gorgeous, and because it's located, his family vineyard, in this prized wine area, he's going to start producing wine there for us, for the international market. And I don't know about you, but it puts a chill up my spine, because don't we go by those grapevines all over the place and say, oh, I'd like to be doing that. And our new Southwestern food correspondent, Alex Province, will be joining us regularly, including today, from his home base in Phoenix, Arizona, to teach us as he learns how to cook and drink Southwestern. Alex is connecting with us from our sister public radio station, KJZZ in Phoenix. Alex, I can't tell you how much it means to me to have all of us, to have you back at the table with us.
Oh, thanks, Faith. So good to be back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
All
Good
right.
to hear you guys.
Alongside with Alex, my food buddies are here as always at the Big G, the professional culinary education training kitchens at Gateway Community College in downtown New Haven. Our Faith Middleton Food Schmooze studios are here, and we'll be inviting you in the future to our live audience shows. Chris Prosperi and Mark Raymond, they're here. And also senior producer Robin Doyen-Aiken, and as I mentioned, Connecticut lawyer and winemaker Carlo Forzani, who's brought us wine, and he made his food. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Faith.
Hello.
Hey, Faith.
Hey, can I tell you something? Here is two people who listen to the show, Ed Bonham-Lee and Tom Griggs. Knocked on the door of our studios, and they said, hi, we're listeners, and we have something for you. We were traveling, and we tried this in a Manhattan, and the bartender explained it to us. This is a product from Britain. They said, we went so crazy over this. I said, why? And they said, well, because we said, what drink would you like to do? And he said, I'd like to do a filthy Manhattan. And they said, what? And he said, a filthy Manhattan. What does that mean?
Martini?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
He said, no, I'm using the
Dirty
new
glass.
rage.
Dirty glass.
So here's what happened. There is a beautiful dark cherry that is made in England, and the company is called Filthy. And so everything they do has that name on it. These are filthy black cherries. They are phenomenal in a cocktail, whether it's a gin and tonic, a vodka tonic, a Manhattan, my favorite. They're absolutely fabulous. It's from Britain, so I wanted to thank the guys. These are wild Italian Amarena stemless cherries.
Amarena, sure.
Slow cooked to deliver a sweet front and a tart finish in a traditional syrup.
Yum.
And so there you go. Look that up. Filthy food. Thanks, Tom and Ed, Food Schmooze listeners. Okay.
I got a little worried there.
Especially when Alex said dirty glass. I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of bar were they in?
Where's the Purell?
Okay. So, Alex, Carlo, please join the show as we go. We have, as you know, Rolando Beramendi talking about his food. We're going to talk about all kinds of food. So, you know how, Alex and everybody, you know how we like to cruise through all the publications and see what great work our colleagues are doing, and then we like to salute them if they've done something particularly well. So this time, I'd like a shout out to Cook's Illustrated. I always say I'm never going to say that. a shout out. I mean, it sounds, and here I am just saying it. It's suddenly in my vocabulary.
Yeah, it crept into all our vocabularies.
I mean, you just can't help it. So I salute Cooks Illustrated for this tip. And the tip comes from Ashley Anderson in Wisconsin, who said, we have here, thanks to Carlo, a wine decanter, because he brought us a special wine from Italy. It's unbelievable. One of the best wines I have ever had. So we've got, Alex, this decanter on the table, and this is like my water bottles at home. And I look at them and I think, how everybody's hand's been on it. How am I going to clean this when I get to the sink? Your hand can't fit in there. So this was a great tip. This woman said she takes a wooden spoon and rubber bands, takes a sponge, wraps it around the end of the wooden spoon with the rubber bands, and then squeezes it into either the decanter or the water bottle, because your hands can't fit down there. And then soap and water gets all those marks off of it. And I thought that was a great tip.
That's simple, right?
Alex, do you have that problem with wine decanters?
Yeah, and you're always afraid to stick your hand. If it breaks, it's going to cut you as well. So I'm always cautious. It's, they're fragile glass.
And also with those long jars, I'm a jar saver. I'm like a jar hoarder. So with the long jars that have had olives and pickles and pepperoncini, right, Carlo?
Yeah.
And you don't have to buy anything. You just use a sponge you already have and rubber bands.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, a bacteria-laden sponge. It's absolutely fantastic.
Not a filthy sponge.
Slow cooked.
All right, so Alex, I want you to tell me about your experience. Here's what happened. Alex's husband, Matthew Bennett, was named president of Cigna Phoenix, and so they have moved to Arizona. And that's why Alex is going to be joining us often, sometimes in our studio in New Haven, but often from public radio in Phoenix. And I thought it would be really fun for Alex to talk to us about what it's like to experience for the first time Southwestern food. So we talk back and forth all the time. And so, Alex, what is it like? To what extent did you know Southwestern food? I only know it a little bit, but I like it when I have it.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut. So like you, I just used to not the greatest Mexican food, but I'm trying to find like that thread of Spanishness, tying it in from my mom and my grandmother to see how Spanish influence reached out here and using indigenous ingredients. And it kind of reminds me of like Italian food in a way. Like we made enchiladas using canned enchilada sauce. And then I was like, I bet you can make your own. And sure enough, you can actually make your own enchilada sauce. And I made them last night and using dried ancho chilies that you soak in water. And then really turns out to be pretty easy to do. So I'm really new at this, but I'm loving it. The spices are cumin and a lot of lime and lemons and other citruses. They just fall off the trees here. You go into your backyard and I thought of you at the grocery store because they had just this mound of blood oranges. Oh, wow. And you know how we love them for cocktails.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So remember once I had to drive all over the place just to find one in Connecticut?
Yeah,
well,
they're all over?
They're everywhere. Oh. So it's a whole new spice cabinet for us. All these different flavors.
It's exciting what you're saying about, say, the ancho chilies, because in, say, the Stop and Shop near where I live, I can get bags of these chilies that you would talk about. I can get those. I don't necessarily know what to do with them, so I'm really looking forward to you telling us. So you soak them in water. Are they super hot?
They're not. They're different kinds. So I just use the ancho chilies because I know them not to be hot. And you're exactly right. You open up that cellophane bag, and they're kind of like a raisin in there. And then you just cut it in half with a big knife and then pull out the seeds, and you put it in warm water. And then within 20 minutes, they reconstitute to almost like a roasted chili pepper. And then
what do you do with it when you're making the enchilada?
You saute some onions with some garlic, and this is kind of crazy. I use lard,
sure.
And I'm still here, so it no chest pain. So I sauteed classic vegetables and lard, and then I took the reconstituted chilies and I put them I just use an immersion blender, and it turns into like this, almost like a tomato sauce. Ah. And then that goes into like a heavy bottom saucepan, and you cook it for 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you've got this delicious enchilada sauce that I threw in with, again, they have all these Mexican cheeses here we don't really find back home.
Let me see if I can remember. Is it cotija?
Yeah, that was one of them. And then all these creams, like sour creams as well.
Oh, wow.
And I made myself these little enchiladas, and you pour this homemade enchilada sauce
And
in,
what are
and
you
it goes
using?
into the oven.
Are you using corn tortillas, and are they local, or are you just getting them out of the supermarket?
Well, if you go to the supermarket here, there's a huge stand of them, and I go for the ones that have the ugliest packaging that look most authentic, right? Like, instead of all the colored packaging, I look...
Right, a lady in her kitchen somewhere on a dirt road. It's like, that's what we're all looking for.
And pretty soon maybe I'll have Matt making, I tell him we can grind our own flour, corn, and maybe Matt can make his own tortillas after work.
They do taste incredible when you can get that real corn flavor. Can I just jump in and say that Carlo Forzani, who, as I mentioned, is a Connecticut lawyer, but also is about to go on his great adventure of bringing in making his own wines in the Piemonte region of Italy. I think he resonated. He's sitting here with us when I was watching his face when you said it reminds me almost about local ingredients and Italian food.
It's true. I love Southwestern food, and I love Mexican food. And I've always wondered what the comparison was with Italian, because obviously they're not the same culture. And Alex, maybe you can speak to this, but I've always thought that Southwestern food, which was crossbreeding with Northern Mexican food, was la cucina povera, which in Italian is the poor people's food. Yeah. It's really basic ingredients, very simply presented, and wonderfully direct food.
Carlo, you're so right. It's exactly that. It's these simple, pure ingredients that speak on their own. They don't need a whole lot done to them.
Right. Same as Italian food.
Yeah. You can see that thread.
So this is all across cultures when you think about it. I remember when Prasad Chernamula was on the show, the Indian chef, and he has India in West Hartford. He did a restaurant in New Haven that was a fusion, Oaxaca, of Mexican and Indian. So as I hear Alex and Carlo talking about this, I know I'm looking at Mark, I'm looking at Chris. In all these cultures, there is some overlap where you look at America, how we have taken certain spices and ingredients from people coming to this land, and they've all come together somehow.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
It's
It's
true.
just fabulous. It's such creative stuff going on when it all comes together.
The cooking-ware, Carlo, you'll know, in Italy, they use, the earthenware pots, right?
Of course.
And here, I'm using these Mexican earthenware that not only have this sort of gentle cooking, but they also, infuse these minerals from the clay, which you see, in Spain and North Africa and Italy, and you see it here, too.
Yeah.
So let me go to Chris Prosperi on that remark, because I have tried to make coq au vin, chicken and wine, about 5 billion times. And I never can make it the way it tastes in France.
Okay.
And I just think, what in the world is going on? Finally, I talked to, who knows if this is true, but I talked to a Frenchman, a very good chef, and he said to me, what pot are you using? Yeah. And I said, I'm using La. And he said, well, you need to have a tin-lined copper pot.
Wow.
And I said, well, would copper? And he said, well, that's what comes with a tin lining. I said, are you telling me the tin somehow flavors the interior? And he said, with the wine up against it, yes, it does. So what did I do? I went out and I bought a tin
And
line.
did that work?
Copper pot. Absolutely, it did.
Sense of place.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah. That's what it is. It's sense of place. The pots that they use, the spices, everything that they do in a certain place gives the food its own thing.
Can I jump in? In March in Italy, because I've always wanted to make a coq au vin, even though I'm Italian. I want to make an Italian version of coq au vin. But I went to my local butcher there, and he told me to buy a rooster.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Completely
That's
different.
traditional.
The rooster was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It had a deep flavor.
Yep.
Yeah.
More gamey.
But Chris, in the old days, and Alex knows this from Spain, Mark from Argentina, they would put little rooster blood into the dish. And what happened after years was you would see some versions of this where they would say, add dark cocoa. And I thought, dark cocoa?
In Mexico.
Well, these weren't in some French restaurants. I was like, what?
To replace
and then
the
they
blood.
said replace the blood. They were trying
Gives
to
it
get
that richness.
dark note.
Yeah.
So
And-
it's
and
like
it- and
blood
it is-
sausage in Scotland. Same thing.
Yeah.
And it is made with an old chicken or an old rooster.
A tough old chicken,
A tough
right?
old, and that has a totally different flavor than a young bird.
Yeah.
Okay, who's resonating to tough old bird? I just want
That's us.
I think Mark isn't in that club yet.
I don't know about that.
Close behind us.
Tough old bird.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. I can't wait for this. We're going to be talking with the Italian chef Rolando Beramendi, and you'll see why he's amazing. He has a book called Autentico, Cooking Italian the Authentic Way. And we have a local person, Carlo Forzani, who is a lawyer in Connecticut, family law, and he has made us a feast of his Italian dishes and also brought in an array of wines for us to try, some available in Connecticut. But he wants us to know what he intends to do with the vineyard he has inherited in the Piemonte region of Italy, if you've ever had a dream like this. And when I tell you the wine he brought in that he intends to duplicate exactly, it's one of the best wines I've ever had in all my life. So I am rooting for this guy to succeed. All right, that's what's going to happen. Plus, who knows what? You know the show. It's always a surprise. More mouth-watering conversation and fun here on the Food Schmooze. Please don't go away.
Life is just a bowl of cherries, so live and laugh at it all.
Life is just a bowl of cherries.
That's right, just don't make it serious. No. Life is too mysterious.
Yes, you work.
You work and you save, and baby, you worry so. But you can't take nothing with you when you go.
Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread had a fight. Beans knocked cornbread out of sight. Cornbread said, now that's all right. Meet me on the corner tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. That's what Beans said to cornbread.
I'm Faith Middleton. Thank you so much for listening to the Food Schmooze. We don't care whether you listen to the show in small bites or eat the whole thing. We're just glad you're here. Here's who's with me, my food buddies. We have Chris Prosperi, chef and co-owner of Metro Beast Restaurant in Simsbury, Connecticut. Our wine guy, Mark Raymond. You hear him introducing us to all kinds of incredible wines. Earlier, that rosé, that summer rosé called 11 Minutes. We have Alex Province joining us from Phoenix Public Radio. He's senior contributor on the show, and he is now in Phoenix on a regular basis, sometimes visiting us in the studio in New Haven. He's in Phoenix right now, and he's introducing us to Southwestern food and wines like he always does, but we're just so excited to have Alex with us this time. And we have Carlo Forzani, who is a family lawyer and is just an amazing home cook, and is got a vineyard. He inherited a vineyard and land from his family in the Piemonte region of Italy, which is
Alto Piemonte, which is north, high Piemonte.
even high Piemonte.
Right up against the Alps.
So I was there and walking on the edge of cliffs and tall enough so that I could pick lemons off the tops of the trees and see the mountains just beyond.
That's true.
It was heaven on earth.
That's true.
I went crazy for the wines in your region, Carlo. And the reason I asked Carlo on the show is I had heard from a friend that he was going to go to Italy and take advantage of the prime acreage that of his family vineyard and go for it big time and start doing an international line of wines for us and other countries of these Italian wines. Carlo, I'm re-welcoming you to the show.
Thank you. I'd love to be here.
So here was, you brought us a wine that is not for sale anywhere. And this is one of the most delicious wines I have ever had in my mouth. I went nuts over this wine.
You did.
Thank you.
I
did.
really, and you, Mark, you said, "Oh my God, elegant beyond
I don't
belief."
think I've ever seen you react that way.
It's like,
And I've seen you react to a lot of things.
Now you guys are making me crazy.
okay. Let me
You
just tell
totally appreciate
this.
this,
Is
Alex.
an Nebbiolo, which is the grape, traditional grape.
From Piemonte, yes.
Okay, so Carlo, this is made by your friend.
It's made by my friend Gianfranco Negri, who's the father, and his son Alessandro Negri, in my neighborhood in Italy.
In consultation with them, you want to recreate this wine and bring it to us and to the international market.
That's my mission.
And so you are. Well, what does this mean for your acreage in your region? What is it called? Begins with an M.
Well, we're in Alto Piemonte.
Yes.
And Alto Piemonte has 2 or 3 legal classifications of wine. We are in the one called Bramatera, which means, if you watched Under the Tuscan Sun, you know that Bramare means to long for, and terra means land. So it's longing for the land. But that is not Bramatera. That's 100% Nebbiolo.
So this is actually hard to find.
Well, yes.
Almost impossible to find from Italy 100% Nebbiolo.
No, you can find it. You can find it in Valtellina, which is above Lake Como, and you can find it in Barbaresco and Barolo, the famous regions 2 hours south of me.
That's right. So this wine that I'm so crazy about, and Alex, you and Mark in particular, this is 100% Nebbiolo. How do you duplicate this?
You grow the Nebbiolo, you tend it with love and obsessive compassion and craziness, meaning you remove all the grapes that are not perfect as the summer goes on, and then by the time you reach late September or early October, you're left with only those grapes that are as close to perfection as reality can make them.
This is what your friend is doing to make this
That's
home-bottled
right.
wine.
He does what the commercial producers called a green harvest. As the summer goes along, he harvests the grapes when they're green, meaning he cuts them out and he throws them out. He throws them in the vineyard.
Expensive thing to do, right?
Very.
Yeah.
But that's what the great Barolo and Barbaresco producers do. We all know in the wine business that wine is made in the vineyard. Great wine is made in the vineyard, not in the cellar.
Right.
Because in the cellar, you're going to keep things as simple as possible.
If you're smart.
If you're
Yeah,
smart, and if you want to make truly great wine, you're not going to mess with nature.
Right.
It's in the vineyard where you tend the grapes and you cull them and you get rid of all the grapes that aren't perfect and you just throw them down in their fertilizer for the next summer. And then you're left with perfect grapes.
Can someone describe the wine to me? What's it look like?
Well, this is a label. Is this sold in the region?
It's not sold.
It's just
family
his
and friends, and he sells a few bottles. But, Alex, this is Nebbiolo in purezza, in purity. It's just like a great Barolo or Barbaresco. That's what it's like. But it's from...
it's like
You look at the color and you're thinking, wow, this could be Grand Cru Pinot Noir.
This is one of the best. If this had been a Barolo, I would just go insane. I mean, honestly, at the end of it, Alex, I was saying, what can I do? How can I? Do I have to go there? What can I say to this man who's only
You're
made
wringing
about
the bottle out, right?
600 bottles of this stuff? If you, Carlo Forzani, if you can duplicate this, it will be an international hit beyond imagining.
I hope so. It's my mission and my hope.
Because you brought this because this is your great passion, this wine right here. Right?
Yes, that bottle you're holding is going to be our flagship wine.
All right. That's a great start.
And let's see, his land is over here. Your land is right here.
No, my land is in the same neighborhood.
Oh, so
actually, my land is higher than his.
Closer to the sun.
Well, it's higher. It's got
Cooler
better
nights,
exposure, cooler evenings. You're right, Alex. That vineyard is at about 150, 200 meters high. Mine are at 385 meters.
Is that not better?
It's a little bit better, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in beer, it is possible to make every beer every year taste exactly the same.
Right.
And
Not in wine.
Anyone who drinks Budweiser knows what I'm talking about. They hire people, as Chris has explained, from technical schools who have the ability to duplicate exactly what came the year before for decades. Okay, so in wine, this is much more of a craft. So that brings me to How do you duplicate this?
You have the right vineyard. You prune the vines the way they need to be pruned, which is pretty severely.
Yes.
You're
willing to have waste
yes,
for the final
yes,
product.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're willing in bad years
I'm going to taste this. Go ahead.
to declassify it, which means you're not going to call it anymore your flagship wine. You're going to sell it, so it's not part of your label, or you're going to lower the grade.
Right. You're going to have to take
those
it
are
a
all
step
you
down.
declassify.
Second label.
Right.
It's
second
hard
label.
financial decisions
Right.
to make, right?
Right.
I mean,
Very
if-
hard.
Not if you're trying to make the best wine. It's not. but
Right.
if you're
And you
trying to
know
run a
what?
Business.
Wine is half passion and half finance.
Yeah.
It has passion and finance, did
Oh,
you say?
sure. It's bad. You have
It's
to
a
have the money
business.
to hold out over decades.
Right.
What do you do?
I mean, Mark knows. Mark
Oh,
talked
yeah.
to that.
I mean,
So you're in the midst of
We've-
gathering your people, right? Your backers.
Yes. I am.
Okay. Yeah, that's how it works.
yeah, but we've seen all over Europe in the last few vintages that villages like Chablis have been absolutely decimated for the last 3 vintages. So there's
Decimated why?
by hail. Hail comes through or frost. And if they take 40-60% of your crop, then guess
That's a
what?
lot of money.
That's
And they
a
have no
lot of
insurance
money.
against
And
this.
You're
You
talking
just
about a
lose the money.
finite amount of product that's being made.
Yeah. Alex is talking about
Yeah.
insurance. That's
Right.
what's
And if
coming.
you if Barolo, if a Barolo producer declassifies his Barolo,
Yeah,
and
what's
now
the price change?
well, the price change goes from 100. I mean, it depends on the Barolo,
yeah.
right? But if you take $125 Barolo, a bottle,
Yeah.
and you declassify it, and you either sell it off at a tenth the amount, or you call it Nebbiolo now, Nebbiolo del Piemonte.
Yeah.
It goes from $140 a bottle to $20 a bottle.
Wow.
Chris, you
So-
do your short ribs in Barolo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ends up there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how?
That's I use the declassified one.
So knowing
Yeah.
this, Carlo, here we have a wine which doesn't have the official classification and is one of the best wines I've ever had. How do you make it? How are you going to make it if it doesn't have the official classification? If I had tasted this at a tasting, and they said to me, $125 a bottle, I'd be running to raid my piggy bank. I'd be calling my friends and saying, "You want to chip in for something extraordinary?"
I actually think that bottle is worth $80 to $120.
Yeah,
That's my
I
opinion.
Are you guys
know.
barrel aging it? Does it go into wood?
It goes into wood, but it goes into very old wood, so that it's not oaky at all.
No.
It's not an oak.
Sir Faith, I'm trying to visualize what you guys are enjoying over here.
Okay,
Yeah,
you know what? Do
so-
you know Mascarello, or do you know Bruno Giacosa? This is a traditionally made wine, like the traditional Barolos. It's aged in wood, but the wood is very large.
The
It's
big
very
500
old.
liters.
Yes.
The big one.
They're botti.
the
That's
big
right.
botti.
Yeah, they're 50 hectoliters.
Yeah. It's about as big as
The
this
room. Yeah. So there's very little oak in that. You're tasting fruit.
When we were on our food and wine tour, we went to Giacosa. And Alex, I know you, Mark, you know those wines. I mean, they're just gorgeous. And
Yeah.
it's a great
Giacosa's
honor
the
to
best.
be just gorgeous. But I got to tell you, I'm not kidding you, Carlo. I would have this in a heartbeat
Yeah, it's absolutely
alongside
delicious. Well,
Giacosa,
thank you both
or
for
even
that.
more. Honestly,
You
I'm
know,
not
these
kidding you.
I appreciate that, because I have been drinking that for years, and I have been telling Alessandro and his father Gianfranco that this compares with some of the best Barolos I've had, and they laugh at me. But
Yeah.
it does.
Yes. So you're going to work together, shall we say?
I'm gonna make that.
You're going to make that. I'm
Work
so
fast, please.
excited. I know. Work fast, work hard. Get those
Well,
those
there
Becker
is
people.
some lead time. You notice that's a 2012. That's 6 years ago.
So that's another thing, how long it has to sit in a cellar, right? Or-
Yes, it depends what you're making. But for Bramatera, it has to sit there for 18 months at least. For a Reserva, 36 months.
Wow.
3 years.
Now, Carla, there's also like fun wines that you can go and you can just walk over to your neighbor's house and they'll fill you a jug, right?
Sure.
There's also the simple like farm wine that's fun to
There
drink.
is. That's called Vino Schulte, which means loose wine. And you bring your jug and they fill it up for $10, 12 euros.
Mm-hmm. Alex and I always talk about the fountains in certain places, in certain countries, where instead of water, you'd bring your jug and there's wine pouring out of the fountain. I know
I have not seen that, but in the movies, maybe.
You'd have a bench there too, right?
It sounds like an adult bedtime story, I know, but no, I'm serious. And there's some places they do it for tourism. So may you do that too. And you're
Yeah. And invite us.
Yeah,
You're
work that
all
into
welcome
the
to my
business
house
plan.
in Macerano.
Thank you.
I would, there's a lot of weeks in the year.
How many bedrooms do you have?
I have 3. But
that's not
I'll tell
gonna
you,
work.
in Macerano, there are B&Bs.
Bunk beds.
There are wonderful
Bunk
B&Bs.
beds.
Wonderful B&Bs.
Agroturismo.
No,
Agriturismo.
seriously, what a fun thing. When are you going to start this? You need to see how things come together, correct?
I do, but
Yeah.
we're probably going to plant our first vineyard either this fall or next spring, 2019.
All
Are
right.
you trying to be as organic as possible?
Yes. Now, whether I'm going to be certified organic is not the important issue. The important issue is whether we're going to do things without chemicals and naturally. Which,
Sustainable.
But it's your land, so you're gonna love it. and
absolutely.
Take care of it.
Yeah, and it's like my vegetable garden. It's all organic. It's all sustainable. It's all nature.
I'm so thrilled to hear you're going to do something as wholesome as possible. And thank you for bringing this wine to the show.
welcome. It
Because
was
this
my
is such a rare
pleasure.
experience.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And to meet you and to hear about what you plan to do is just a thrill.
Thank you. It's a thrill for
may
me.
you be a big success with this.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Carlo Forzani, family law practitioner who lives in Torrington, Connecticut. We're obviously cheering him on. You know us on the show. We love the local. Coming up in the next segment of the show, we have Italian food importer and now cookbook author Rolando Beramendi. Ina Garten has done an introduction to his book because she believes in what he does so much. It's called Autentico, Cooking Italian the Authentic Way. And where do you hear the voice? A big, big Italian show. That's coming up next, so don't go away.
Because you like Italian food, baby. Because you like real good wine, oh yeah. Because you promised to share my home, I will fly you to Rome one day.
I'm Faith Middleton. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Food Schmooze. Maybe you're just jumping into the show. Perhaps you've been listening for a while. Here is what's going to happen. We have an author, Rolando Beramendi. He has done a cookbook, and it's called Autentico. He lives in San Francisco, in Florence, Italy, and New York City. Okay, so he's one of these international guys, but the best part of this man, besides his love of Italian food, because the book is fabulous, but the best part of this guy is when people come up to you in Italy who are doing something exceptional, and it's kind of small, and you just think, why can't I take back with me this hazelnut producer? Or this man, Rolando Beramendi, helps those people bring their product to America, even though it's not, Heinz or something like that. So this is how we get to taste the jewels of Italy. So I'm especially excited about him. And by the way, Ina Garten, our friend on the show, has done the foreword for this cookbook because years ago on the east end of Long Island, Rolando walks into Barefoot Contessa, Ina Garten's store, and says, I want to show you these things. And she orders everything and says, oh, my God, we have to have this. We have to have that. John Duya, we're having everything you're bringing, I'm doing. So they have remained good colleagues. So Rolando Beramendi, welcome to the Food Schmooze.
Thank you very much for having me, Faith. It's an honor.
Well, for us, too. I just wonder, when you say in your book that you want to help us, as you do, to cook real, authentic Italian, What is the secret to that? Not as if there's one secret, but what is that about? And can we do this here when we don't have the same soil and sun and water affecting the original product?
Well, I think for me, I see it as shifting the attention from what you want to eat to what you have in your pantry and what making it with the best ingredients possible. So for me, cooking with high quality olive oil or very good ingredients is paramount, because you will immediately taste the difference if you're using more industrially produced products. So ingredients is the number one. And then the second one, it would be just like when you are in Italy, you have a plate of pasta with maybe 2 to 3 ingredients. I think that we tend to complicate things too much. When the conversation crosses the Atlantic, it seems to me that also because of all the wonderful chefs and the way that people want to be ooh and ah, in America, we tend to complicate things too much. Whereas when you are eating in Italy, it's just basically spaghetti with crushed pecorino and crushed pepper, and that's it.
Yes.
So you don't need to put more on it.
Well, I want to thank you especially for allowing us to take several of our favorite recipes from your cookbook and put them on our food site. And I'm mentioning this right now because I want to focus on a recipe that is a prime example of what you just said. And it's at foodschmooze.org right now. Now, listen to this. 3 ingredients: shaved fennel, porcini mushroom, and pecorino.
Oh, great combination.
So
great
Carlo,
So delicious.
I mean,
fabulous.
Really. So fennel bulbs that are sliced, a porcini mushroom sliced, pecorino cheese in pieces, extra virgin olive oil, the juice of a fresh lemon, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of mint leaves, a little sea salt, and some black peppercorns. So how does this come together, and how is it an example of what we have in Italy? This simple salad, and you look at each other and you say, this is unbelievable. So tell me how it comes together.
I think that is a prime example of what we should be eating. I think that we have forgotten how to chew, and I think everything is becoming too much of a homogeneous bite after bite. Whereas if you use a nice sharp chef's knife, you slice the fennel all irregularly, you slice the pecorino, which should be nice and sharp and very old and crumbly almost. And then as well the porcini mushrooms, which they give that wonderful, woody taste to it all. Mm-hmm. With some fresh oil and the cracked pepper and the salt, it bursts in your mouth. It jumps, and every bite will be different, one from the other.
That's the best part.
So
yeah, he's
I
right.
think that we always have some leftover vegetables, and so those 4 recipes that I put in Autentico, which means to saw, is you usually use a sharp bread knife or a chef's knife. You can make combinations of whatever you want in each season. So what I did is try to teach you into trying to make your own combinations as well.
Well, this is Carlo Forzani on the show. Your family's from Italy, Piemonte region, and you're hearing this, and you just made us a feast, a banquet. And these were simple ingredients, but your food was so delicious. And I can see you perking up listening to this.
Yes, and I'm perking up, Rolando, because you know the phrase in Italian, si sposano? Si sposano in Italian means they marry each other. And that recipe that Rolando's talking about, it marries, and I see Chris over there.
Yeah, totally.
It means 2 ingredients that were meant by destiny to be together, because each one points up the other, right? And so if you make something where they marry each other, you don't need anything more to complicate it. You just want to go to the wedding.
So when you go into a certain, that's beautifully said, when you go into a certain Italian restaurant, I would tend to be with a recipe like this kind of northern Italian to me. It's very simple, it's clean, a few beautiful ingredients.
It could be pugliese, though, yes.
It could, yes. Okay, so they put the salad down in front of you, and you're not sure whether to order. You think, okay, I'll try the fennel salad. And here it is, just these 3 ingredients with a little olive oil and fresh lemon. some mint leaves, and you go crazy. It's just so fabulous. These simple ingredients when they're good ingredients, like Rolando says.
The other thing I want to say is, and Rolando, you said this, cooking is going to market. If you don't have good ingredients, you don't have good food. So marketing is everything to me, and I have a huge garden, by the way, because I have to have ingredients that were picked today.
Let me jump in and ask you people, if we have right now listening to us people who have incredibly busy lives, they don't necessarily have gardens. They're going to a supermarket and they're doing their best. They can't always go to a farmer's market just down the road. I try to as much as I can. So, Chris, how do we translate this? Can we do it anyway?
Yeah, we can, because a lot of our markets use stuff from local farms now. So now, I would do this salad, would cut it just like he said. I'd find a nice bulb of fennel, fresh asparagus, slice it thin like he said, and the pecorino cheese, and boom, you have a salad. You can always find something to shave and make this salad with. And right now, asparagus, shave the asparagus lengthwise on a little mandolin.
On a mandolin.
Oh, it'd be heaven.
Or even if you don't have a mandolin, take your potato peeler
sure.
and just slice it down the asparagus, and you get that nice thin slice.
And the pecorino as well.
Yeah.
All right. So the book is called Autentico. You will see this on our website with his recipes, Cooking Italian the Authentic Way. I think you can hear the spirit of how this works. Now, Rolando, sit and listen to this part, because we asked Chris Prosperi if he would make your recipe that we have on the website, pizza without crust. I was very excited about this.
I felt like a kid again.
A pizza nut. So it was delicious. So, Chris, walk us through fast. How did it come together?
So a good tomato sauce, you can use his or use whatever you have. Just a really good, simple, fresh tomato sauce. And then salt and pepper, fresh basil. Bring that up to a simmer. And once you got that to a simmer, you cut buffalo mozzarella or regular mozzarella into chunks or strips. You put that in the tomato sauce until it gets just to the point where it's melty and starts being stretchy a little bit. Then you just bring the pot right to the table with fresh ciabatta bread. You can do olives, anchovies, pepperoncini peppers, just have on the side. And you dip the bread, right, or you spoon the sauce over the bread.
And the cheese.
And then you put a little olive on it or anchovy. And we could have just done that all day, right?
Sweeping my
legs. I'm eating my notebook over here.
Sorry, Alex. And I put it on the stove, and I'm like, I put too much tomato sauce, and we're never going to eat that much. And you know what happened.
Yeah, right. Sure.
It was all gone. Every drop.
Yeah, honestly, it was just so good. So,
and it's so easy to share with people. I could totally see that with a group of kids at the table before a dinner, before a bigger dinner, or just something that you want to pick on for a snack in the afternoon.
Mark, your wife Mary is from Argentina. You're Italian. You have Spanish in your background. This is so much about this international way where you've got a bowl of something delicious and you're sweeping your bread through it, and it's like this tapas
Family
little
style.
taste of something and delicious. It's not about, when I think about the artists of old standing around with a little pot of spaghetti on the stove, no fussiness. Just a quick homemade sauce, a bunch of noodles, this bowl of this delicious sauce,
Communal.
and just a loaf of bread.
And along that point, if you're looking for a way to get the kids to stay at the table for a little while, because how many times do they come to the table, eat their meal, and they're gone? You put this out, and now everybody's got bread, and everybody's got to kind of sit around it for a little while.
And
and
all
it
those
kind of strikes up little conversations.
Rolando, what are you hearing this? This is what you've inspired.
I am so happy. I want to be there with all of you.
Oh, I know. We're going to come see you.
You actually understand the feeling of what that whole recipe is all about.
Yeah.
That's being authentic. That's cooking authentic food. It brings togetherness. It brings love to the table. It brings a lot of laughter. And one of my most favorite things about that recipe is that you eat with your hands.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more beautiful than eating with your hands.
Con le mani.
I love it.
Con le mani. See, we just did this with Carlo's food, same thing. Okay, I don't want to lose you before we get to this. I want to tell you something. There is a food site that is very popular with people, And they chose, there's a great restaurateur in New York and other places, Danny Meyer, and in one of his restaurants, the number one dessert mentioned on the site was the olive oil cake. And now, unfortunately, the restaurant took it off the menu. I don't know why. You know how people feel they must change things. So when I saw your recipe for extra virgin olive oil cake, I was crazy. And I guess this is from Contessa Beatrice Contini Bonacosi of Tenuta di Capizzana. Okay, and
yes, it is.
Yes, so this is her recipe. And I'm sure you have adapted it a little bit, but all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, a little salt, some eggs, honey, local honey if you can, please, extra virgin olive oil, whole milk, the zest of some oranges, a little confectioner's sugar on the top, and one orange thinly sliced into rounds. Oh, don't you want this cake? We have this on the website, foodschmooze.org. So what happened when you first tasted this cake, torta di Capizzana?
Well, I think that, as you can see, I use copious amounts of olive oil throughout the cookbook. I think olive oil is the most essential ingredient in my food, and if you use really good olive oil, it will change the flavor of anything you make. And so the first time that I was at the Tenuta di Capizzana in 1992, I think it was, I had this olive oil cake, and it was so nice. When you eat something with olive oil, you don't end up with that sort of fatty, greasy stuff stuck on the top of your palate. So it was so clean and so smooth, the texture, that I was quite taken by it. And yes, indeed, I have taken a step and played around with that recipe as years have gone by. And what I have changed is I've changed the sugar to the honey, because I'm a big honey addict. Mm-hmm. And I used in the recipe always chestnut honey from Tuscany.
Oh, that's the best.
So good.
Oh, wow. That's the best.
The best.
So dark.
Flavor to it.
Yeah. Oh, the very best.
And Rolando, do you have that with a little glass of Vin Santo?
Exactly. It's perfect with Vin Santo. And it's wonderful if you do it on a cookie sheet, like I wrote in the book, and just cut them like brownies and then top it with maybe a little bowl of ice cream.
I'd like that. I like this recipe.
Poached peaches.
I need that recipe.
So
I know.
it's really delicious.
At the beginning of the show, we had these cherries. That's what I'm putting on it.
So we were given as a gift, a company has started in England called Filthy. And what they make is a bunch of garnishes and drink things under the brand name Filthy. And so these are Italian Amarena cherries. They're called Filthy cherries. And Chris was just holding up the jar and saying, wow, what I like to put this on top of your olive oil. Yeah.
You could put almost anything on top of the olive oil cake because it's...
Or nothing.
Or nothing. And just coffee
sugar.
or Vin Santo.
More honey. Yeah. I'm just crazy about this recipe, and thank you for letting us put it on foodschmooze.org. I wish I had gotten a chance to talk about let me just do it quickly, your quick vegetable broth, how you roast vegetables, how to do a real Tuscan ragu. And these are things without fuss. They're very simple and yet speak to the Italian tradition, as you've heard Rolando talk about it. There is a focaccia with extra virgin olive oil, a zucchini tart, a kind of farro soup, mixed fried seafood, broken fresh tomato halves with capers in them, spaghetti with egg, pecorino romano, and I never say this right. Is it guanciale?
Guanciale.
Guanciale, perfect.
Okay. On and on it goes. Just terrific. So thank you so much, Rolando Beramendi, for being on the show. The book is called Autentico, but your spirit is just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Faith, and thank you to all of you.
Pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure.
Okay.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The Food Schmooze airs Thursdays at 3 and 9 and Saturdays at noon. Please remember, never eat more than you can lift. In New Haven, I'm Faith Middleton.
baby, come to my house.
Hey, don't want the party to end? Well, neither do we. Talk with us anytime online at foodschmooze.org.